Yes, peace and harmony. Oh, can you hear? Can you hear? We'll all be singing my love in peace and harmony. Yes, peace and harmony. Oh, can you hear? Can you hear? We'll all be singing my love in peace and harmony.
Hey, Red, do you remember me from golf?
Peace and harmony.
Oh, wait, no,
Peace
sorry.
and harmony.
Good evening, and thank you all for joining us. Welcome to Sinister Wisdom's reading Sappho's Room. We began this evening with music by Your Girlfriend. The song is Peace and Harmony. They lent it for Sinister Wisdom 93, and it is available on our website. You all heard just the final minute or so of that. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Julie Enzer, and I'm thrilled to be hosting just the first part of this evening's reading. The second part will be hosted by my comrade, Casey Moore. Many of you have been in touch with Casey. She has been helping to organize our Zoom reading series as we go through this year of the pandemic. We have a chakra block hour planned for you with plans to wrap up as usual no later than 8:05. If you're not familiar with Sinister Wisdom, this is my short advertisement. Sinister Wisdom is a quarterly journal of lesbian literature and art. If you're not currently a subscriber, I encourage you to sign up for a subscription today at sinisterwisdom.org/subscribe. Our current issue is Sinister Wisdom 118. We've done lots of great events in conjunction with 118. Sinister Wisdom is sustained by a group of people who are monthly givers called sustainers, folks who give $3, $5, $10, or maybe even $100 a month to keep the journal alive. You can become a sustainer at sinisterwisdom.org/sustainers. I send out emails every month with backroom news about what's going on behind the scenes. One of the fun things of this year, and one of the things I've been doing like crazy this month in particular, is shipping out the Sinister Wisdom 2021 calendar as a holiday gift. Here it is, thanks to everyone who's already purchased it. They are mailing regularly, and I still have I think I have about 40 left to send. So we expect them to sell out. You can order the calendar at sinisterwisdom.org/calendar. The links are all going into the chat. And as Juno adds them again, she's going to add the http:// so that they will become live in the chat, learning a little new Zoom tidbit. This evening, we have 3 readers who are going to each read to us for 4 or 5 minutes. I'm going to introduce each of them before they begin. Then we'll turn to our open mic where people will read for 2 minutes each, twice the size of our other open mic readings, because we're trying to always make things bigger and better. Casey Moore is going to lead you through that portion of the program. A few basic announcements to remind people who've been with us before about Zoom. Please keep your microphone muted throughout the program. We love your dogs and cats. We love your children. We love your roommates. We love your friends getting carry-out orders during the event, but we love to see it in the background and not hear it. If you want to show appreciation for our readers, you can wave your hands at the end of each reading. Let's practice. Yes, there we go. Very good, very good. You can also, I direct you to the reaction emojis at the menu down at the bottom. The reactions are growing. When we started using Zoom, there were only 2, and now I see that there are 6. So you can use the reaction emojis, and you can always light up the chat and put comments on Facebook, where we're also live streaming. If you need technical assistance, chat with Juno Stilley, who is in the upper part of my screen and waving right now. Also, if you get popped out of the room, we're always monitoring and letting people back in, so you can come back in. So that's the end of our announcements. Oh, I was going to say 2 other things. This is our Notes for a Women's Revolution, the blank book that makes a great holiday gift. I think I have too much glare for you to really see it, but every page has a quotation by a famous woman. Fabulous holiday gift. We are shipping those and trying to do our best to get everything out to people if you order before December 20th. And I think I saw Alana on the Zoom somewhere, not maybe on my main screen now, but I'm going to give this quickest flash of the January issue before we even do the cover reveal on email, which will go out next Tuesday. So here is the January issue. Very exciting. It was edited by Alana Dykewoman and Judith Katz, and it's called To Be a Jewish Dyke in the 21st Century. Super excited to share that with you. Now on to the program for real. I'm very excited to welcome our first reader, K-Ming Chang. K-Ming is a Kundiman Fellow and a Lambda Literary Award finalist. She's the author of the debut novel Bestiary, which just came out this past year from One World Random House. It's fantastic. I commend it to you all. Her poems have been anthologized in Ink Knows No Borders, Best New Poets of 2018, Bettering American Poetry Volume 3, and the 2019 Pushcart Anthology. You can read more about her work at K-Ming Chang, alloneword.com. And I'm thrilled to welcome her this evening. K-Ming, you can unmute yourself and begin to read.
Hi all. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, and thank you for inviting me to be a part of this and to be part of your space. I'm very excited. So I'll be reading a flash fiction story called Gloria. It was published earlier in the summer in Split Lip magazine. Gloria Gall was the first girl I ever hurt. I punched her in the face for calling my family a bunch of dirty mainlanders. I was Taiwanese like her too, but just half on my mother's side, which meant the other half of my family must be made up of organ sellers, gutter spitters, and serial gamblers. It was true I had an uncle who stabbed another man twice during a card game in the basement of a pet store. It was true my grandfather won my grandmother in a game of mahjong, along with a flute that he demonstrated how to play by prodding the mouth tip into his ass and farting into it. Gloria was a church girl. She thought she was better than us because she had dime-sized nipples and an almost new Navy Honda. She prayed every day, and her tongue must have been tuned into the right frequency because hers always came true. She prayed for her own pocket radio when she was 9, and the next day they were growing from the sycamores like silver-skinned fruit, batteries falling out of the sky in a gunmetal rain. Then there was the time she prayed for the moles on her nose to be evicted from her skin, and the next day they fled her face as horseflies. My grandfather went to the temple twice in his life, once to pray for the lottery numbers to arrive as the number of birds in the sky, once to pray I'd be a son. Both prayers were returned to sender. After he died, we pickled his ashes in a jar of rice vinegar and left him there as a lantern. Gloria Gall wore a jade cross and skirts with overlapping layers like the bell of a tulip, and she was so thin I could see her bones go stealth beneath her skin. She had a mouth like a Ming Dynasty poem, weaned off cream and perfectly circular, and when she prayed, which was all the time, wherever she was, she lowered her head and muttered, forcing all of us to watch her fold. There were things we did to bend her faith like a fishbone, like stealing the side view mirrors off her Honda while she was at church, or sending her a text that said 666 every day for a month. But she remained above us all, a self-appointed saint. She was pristine as an apple, and we all wanted to skin her. I've never seen the inside of a church, but I imagine it's swollen with light. Nothing like the temple where I went once to visit my grandfather. His name was pasted to the wall for the first 100 days after death. Inside the temple, it was dark and damp like the inside of a plum, a pit pulsing down my throat. I couldn't look at his name, the one he gave me, the one I didn't say, the one Gloria called dirty. In the back of the room was the Buddha sitting cross-legged, shoulders slumped, face shedding gold paint, a chipped nose that reminded me of the time I punched Gloria, the sap of blood on my knuckles, the sweet. Her bottom lip unzipped against my fist, her knees ducked to the street. Take this from me, I wanted to say. Pray for me to stop. I'll answer to my name in your mouth. Gloria got a chaste boyfriend, a church boy. The neighborhood girls and I planted $31 in his pocket, along with a note urging him to get it in and bring us proof when he did. God designed you to do this, we wrote, and he obeyed, bringing us her underwear dangling from his maw like a dog. We were disappointed by the plainness of them, no lace waistband to tattle on, no little satin bow, not even a pattern of cherries or hearts. They looked unworn, the kind of white that meant her mother owned a washing machine and didn't scrub the family's underwear in the sink with a stone shaped like a fist, the way our mothers did. We knew then that we would never dirty her. I saw her alone once in the parking lot of the church. It was true I was following her, true that I thought of kidnapping her family's beagle so that I'd see her again on her knees, searching for something. But I knew she was the kind to leash her losses and walk them down the street like shining beasts, so I left the dog alone. In the parking lot of the church, I saw her sit in the driver's seat of her almost new Honda, put her hands on the wheel, and go nowhere. It was dark and no one knew where she was. The light was on in her back seat. I wanted to wear that light, so I knocked on the car window. She rolled it down and told me to go away, but instead I got in beside her, told her it was dangerous to sit in an unlocked car. Her glove box was open, and inside I could see the sweet beads of a rosary and something that glistened behind it, a gun. She saw me looking and said it was for protection, that when her father first came to America, he worked on a farm and shot pigs and strung them up, unbuttoning their skin. I told her there weren't any pigs here. I didn't know her mouth was capable of making that word, pig, and I pulled it from the air like a pin. That night, she tried to teach me the word of God. She asked if I had ever felt his love, but all I could think about was her father with the pig slung across his shoulders, the satin shawl of its blood. In the back seat, she saddled my face, came in my mouth, knotted my wrists with ribbons of salt. I saw her nipples and they were ordinary, not currency, no faces minted into them. I hated how perfectly plotted her spine was, her symmetrical shadow, how she rummaged light from the whites of my eyes, how faithful I was to the taste of her. Thank you.
Thank you. This is one of those things I always remember about the lesbian readings, that I hate to be the person to speak after the taste of you, as you said, K-Ming. Thank you so much. Love that reading. Folks are putting in the chat links to buy K-Ming's book, Bestiary, and we'll be putting in other links to authors' websites. Our next reader is an associate professor of English and director of women's and gender studies at Kingsborough Community College. They are the co-editor of Women's Studies Quarterly, published by the Feminist Press. Finishing Line Press will publish their next poetry collection, Birch Philosopher X. They are the co-editor of Sinister Wisdom, Celebrating the Michigan Women's Music Festival, Dump Trump Legacies of Resistance, and 45 Years, a tribute to the Lesbian Herstory Archives. Now they are working on the trans feminism issue of Sinister Wisdom. A coordinator at the Lesbian Herstory Archives and of the Rainbow Book Fair, as well as on the board of Sinister Wisdom and the Center for LGBTQ Studies, CLEGS. Please join me in welcoming Red Washburn. Red, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you so much, Julie, for organizing. I also want to thank the Sinister Wisdom Board of Directors and Casey and Juno for organizing the open mic and helping with tech issues. Um, I also want to acknowledge all the work Julie does. She's the hardest working lesbian writer and editor I know. I'm also delighted to read with K-Ming and Mecca. And thank you all for showing up tonight and supporting Sinister Wisdom. So I'm going to read 3 poems. The first one is called X. They're all fairly new poems. The last one is actually published in the Lesbian History Archives issue of Sinister Wisdom. So X. Canoes piled up on the grass. They look into what was once water. It was the water that they learned how to do the breaststroke, the water that wrapped algae around their leg, the water that hid a washer from their best friend who banged her knee against it, that they biked along to see the ducks, and that ice held their sleds in the winter. No lifeguards needed anymore. They stand on the green lawn lake and look into the void of it. They have been gentrified out like the beavers. From the mud into which they squeezed their toes, they grew into something else, the paddle that doesn't have a point of origin, a return, or a destination, a tree under which they pee with their shirt off. They look at the leaves swaying and think this is like transition, a girlhood like a dead name, a gender like an imagination. Under them, she grabs their cock with her cunt. Her strength is around them. They tell her they can feel her. They lift her legs higher and deeper, go inside her, like hands in the sand. They come inside her, their chest turns red, she caresses their scars, and they sink between her legs, throbbing harder with their tongue moving to her clit, slither inside her and suck her lips, their beard soaked in her. She tells them to come lie beside her. She welcomes in their fist, their cock still hard for her. She grabs it and jerks it gently. They close their eyes. They think that she might just get their gender before they take off their dick, like a barber who grabs the blade and goes high and tight on the fade before they even ask for it. Around their head flew a firefly. It lit up the dark bedroom, looming around them. It flew above their scars, zigzagged along them in the AC, and then bobbed across their cat's whiskers. To be on the inside with all that fire when it was supposed to be outside. It seemed wild, they thought, while they were trying to sleep. Their eyes slow blinked and then traced, engulfed by this blaze, the summer indoors. They thought they would dream in this glow, but they got up, cupped this life, and set it free to the night wind. They thought about all the fireflies who reminded them how to provide their own light, roam about, glide near the trees, and be free. They preferred to let their cat chase away their bad dreams. When it gets colder. In the early morning hours before I heard my mom died, I dreamt she was already dead. I was trying to find big purple flowers in Brooklyn for her with an old friend. We walked miles and miles up and down Fifth Avenue, hitting stores, parks, and gardens. What were they? Allium, hydrangea, lilacs? It's fall now. Maybe they were smaller. Asters or irises? I was never good with classifications. Something else. Something real, imaginary? No, something special for her. That would keep looking for the right ones, for them all, for her. I'd swipe them from neighbors up and down the lake where we lived, stuff them under my shirt, bike home, and hand them to her before she went to work at night. I would snatch her a daisy as if it were a $50 just to see her smile. It ended in a fog. I woke up covered in tears next to my partner's warm body. I shared the dream with her, cried some more, and drifted back off into sleep for a few hours. I knew I would see her when it got colder. That's what she said. I texted her the night before to visit. It was fall now, suddenly. I woke up again to my cat purring loudly beside me, just minutes before the call, the home phone. I knew. I picked it up. I watered them all hard. It happened a few hours before. My father said a single daisy bloomed in their yard, that she was at peace. He had irises out to plant. I brought daisies, irises, and an assortment of unknown purples for her grave. I could never steal enough flowers for her. And the last one is Nightfall. I've never made out in a cemetery before. I've never put my jacket down to pin someone against a headstone while listening to cis dudes pissing in the distance, smile laughing at it all, along with a ripped dress, a bruised tit, and a phantom chest mosquito bite. I've never had a femme kiss me first, let alone kiss me anywhere, including there. Never had Tubas, electric guitars, singers dancing to images of skeletons in trees there. Never have seen it all. Never have seen weird films projected across lilyless ponds. Never trees lit up in sunset colors lined with fake candles. Never have seen still performances in wedding dresses in front of gravestones. Never have seen circus poets and jewelry box music with bats flying above costume folks. Never have seen women harmonizing in another language in the catacombs with incense swirling around them. I've never seen blue clouds at nightfall reflected on someone's face. I thought I'd seen it all in that cemetery, being in it, and even being locked in it. I think about this cemetery a decade later with eyes closed, ears open, heads rested, her skull leaning into my ribs, looking up a tree with my fingers laced in her hair, laying in a piece, a leaf in her hair, there where all is not dead. Thank you all.
Red, that was so beautiful. Thank you. I was so excited when you said that you were reading new work, because as I've been talking to some folks working on programs for next year, a lot of people have asked me, what are you trying to do with the Sinister Wisdom Zooms? And my most frequent response has been, I don't really know. We're feeling our way to what our community needs at this time. And I think when we're here, we all know what it is. And reading new work, I think, is one of the elements of it. So thank you very much for that. Our next reader is the author of the short story collection, Blue Talk and Love, and winner of the 2018 Judith Markowitz Award for LGBTQ Writers. Her stories and essays have appeared or are forthcoming in Best New Writing, The Kenyon Review, Callaloo, Feminist Studies, American Fiction, Prairie Schooner, Crab Orchard Review, Tri-Quarterly, The Scholar and Feminist, American Quarterly, Public Books, Ebony.com, BET.com, and others. Her forthcoming academic book, The Poetics of Difference, Queer Feminist Forms in the African Diaspora, explores the politics of poetic experimentation in global Black women's art, literature, and hip hop. She is now working to complete a novel, which I can tell you will be fantastic. We will all be thrilled to read that. An assistant professor of English at Bryn Mawr College, please join me in welcoming Mecca Jamilah Sullivan. Mecca, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. So I'll just echo everyone's thanks. Julie, thank you so much for bringing us together. Thank you, Juno. Thank you, Casey. And K-Ming and Red, it's a pleasure to read with you. I've so enjoyed hearing your work. I too am going to read something new. This is an excerpt from a short story that's entitled The Club. And it's a response to Conditions 5, the Black Women's Issue, which I wrote for a forthcoming special issue of Sinister Wisdom. So I'm just going to read a few sections from that short story. As she pushed into the club, 5 washed her hands, dropped her bags in the spray space, and gave a deep, maskless exhale as the sandy mist covered her. She waved at the bartender, Alex D., the non-binary mixologist who had deep skin and a nameless sexy, and who made the best old-fashioned you've ever had. Once, when 5 asked Alex what the secret of their old-fashioned was, Alex looked at her matter-of-factly. I put the Afrofuture in it, they said, then walked away with a twerk in their step. Today, Alex D. stood propped behind the bar talking with EJ, another dancer, about one of the club's favorite topics of discussion, Black women and self-care. For 5, the phrase self-care rang hollow outside the club. It had been beaten to death since the start of the pandemic back in 2020. And now it seemed to mean everything from proper revaccination cycling to outlandish e-vacation splurges to the latest pumpkin spice trend on white girl Instagram. But at the club, the conversations enlivened her. So much of what happened here was self-care, truly, though 5 wouldn't have phrased it that way. She would simply call it survival. The dressing, the talking, the rituals of hair and makeup, the cleaning, the protecting, the sex and the food, even the dancing, the work itself felt nourishing more often than not. The club was the first place 5 had ever really felt that way, including every place she'd ever called home and every crew she'd called family. This, more than anything, was what kept her coming back to the club, and it was the reason she was here at work 2 hours early today. She had not found the words to explain this to Angelina, to tell her partner that dancing at the club was her survival. It wasn't that Angelina disapproved of her work, not exactly. Angelina was older, but she was quiet and reserved in a way that made Five want to protect her and tempt her at once. Five could sense that Angelina admired the freedom and the heat of the club, but that she always felt herself an outsider. Angelina had grown up in a strict family steeped in old money and proper Black middle-class values, among which quietude, rigidity, and respectability were chief. To her credit, Angelina worked hard to free herself of these restraints. Five knew this was part of what drew them together. She liked watching Angelina surprise herself with her desire. She enjoyed luring her further and further into daring, seeing her pleased and startled by the sound of her own voice. Five was also grateful to Angelina. It was thanks to her that they had a home, a cute 2-bedroom with excellent public Wi-Fi in a state with no police and relatively efficient community safety bureau, one of the first to go firearm-free. They shared the apartment with Angelina's cats, Rachel and Rosalie, who didn't quite love Five, but tolerated her well enough. Angelina was a teacher, and she spent her days in their brightly lit office screen timing with her 10th and 11th grade literature students in front of the room's vast bookshelves. Of all the things Angelina had brought into Five's life, her library may have been the best. Angelina's shelves were amply curated and meticulously arranged, with prose and poetry monographs from Arroyo Pizarro to Zami, and all the most important anthologies and journals: Take Back the Night, The Black Woman, This Bridge Called My Back, Words of Fire, Mouths of Rain, Homegirls, Sinister Wisdom, and every issue of Conditions. Angelina had even installed a home assistant audio plugin, multi-program from title to author and genre and back. Sometimes between Angelina's screen time classes, Five wandered into the office before work to stare at the colorful spines and pick the poet who would accompany her through her day. "Homie, show me living as a lesbian," she'd say. Within seconds, the room would bluster up in response. "Living as a lesbian, Cheryl Clark, Shelf 4, Row C, enjoy, girl." Five loved how Angelina had her shit together, how she could be counted on to know what the safe bet was and to make it every time. Five also loved playing the role of the young and irascible temptress, the thick-hipped dancer who encouraged Angelina to come out to her family, who held her hand while she let her body speak in bed. Still, even after Angelina had crept out the closet into the relative safety of their shared life, her daring would only go so far. Her vision of a Black lesbian future was a home and marriage, gourmet cat food for Rachel and Rosalie, legality, normalcy, children. "You know white picket fences are not viral insulators," Five had joked once. "They don't even make them anymore." Angelina smiled, flushed. "Whatever," she said. "Just give me my 2.5 kids like they used to say, and we'll be good. Population law be damned." Five wasn't opposed to this life intellectually, though having children would mean she would have to stay at home from the club while Angelina taught, at least for a while, which she was not willing to do. Where Angelina craved the safe cocoon of acceptance, for Five, inconspicuousness was death. Five wanted freedom, self-possession, shamelessness. She wanted the warmth of her own spotlight and phenomenal sex. Angelina insisted their desires were not incompatible, but Five was not so sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mecca. It's a wonderful story that you're reading from, and I'm so excited to share that, the whole story and the whole issue with our Sinister Wisdom readers in the future. I'm going to make just a couple quick other final announcements before I turn it over and we go into the wonderfulness of our open mic. First of all, as I always try to do at our events, I invite everyone to think about how you might support and participate in Sinister Wisdom over the next year. I'm always open to proposals for guest editors. I welcome the opportunity to work with interns and volunteers on issues, our website, email communications, and other projects. I have a couple things sitting on my desk right now, just waiting for some labor. Ultimately, I think of Sinister Wisdom as a beautiful shell, an organization dedicated to promoting lesbian literature and the arts. If you conceive of a project in that world and want to work with us, please reach out. Our book club, our second Sinister Wisdom book club, will happen next Tuesday night, December 15th. We are reading and discussing Shani Mutu's Polar Vortex. It's a fantastic book. I read it in galleys over the summer and was thrilled to have a way to share it with the Sinister Wisdom community. And I have a little glint in my eye about what our third book will be, and we'll reveal that next Tuesday night for a book club that will happen in February. So now, oh, and one other thing, we have great events coming up. We're going to do an event or two a month for the first 6 months of 2021, which is at least how long we're thinking we still have to continue pandemic planning. So we'll be announcing a lot of that in early January. So stay tuned to your email. If you've unsubscribed from Sinister Wisdom emails, I know it and feel hurt. So you should resubscribe again if you want announcements about our events. Thank you. Now on to the open mic. Casey Moore, the fantastic Casey Moore, who's done just a ton of behind the scenes organizing for all of our events this year, has organized our open mic, and I'm now turning the mic over to Casey to walk us through this amazing array of readers.
Thank you so much, Julie. I really appreciate that introduction. Thank you to everyone for being here, and thank you to Mecca, Red, and K-Ming for a wonderful reading. That was beautiful from all of you. So thank you guys so much. And we'll get started right away with the open mic. And our first speaker is Mary Oishi.
Okay, I'll try to keep it to the theme tonight. I want to see you like a blind person sees, with the palms of my hands, the pads of my fingers on the smooth of your forehead, your eyebrows slight fur, your closed eyes gently, your temples, the curve of your cheeks, indent above your lips, bridge and flare of your nose as you gasp, your parted lips, the wet of your tongue, thrust of your chin, bared slope of your neck, every indent and rise of your collarbone and shoulders, the place between your breasts, my mouth following like a third eye, seeing more fully, meeting my hands on the rounds of you, the stone of your nipples, lingering there, worshipfully seeing a sight more sacred than stained glass on a sun's morning. While the eyes of my hands discover the mother belly of you, the place that heaves, holds life itself, the perfect oval goddessness of you. Open, open for my hands, my lips to see, like a blind person sees, the satin of your inner thighs. Let me see them, eyes closed slowly, with only the tender of my kisses climbing. Let the final scene that crests my hands, my mouth, be the one that takes my breath away, that makes me cry out, where I behold you at your very core, where I describe you so fully to yourself, my lips, my hands, my tongue, revealing vistas in you mirrors cannot find. Then you will know how beautiful you are in all the places you've forgotten, how utterly exquisite you are in places you have never been shown. Your body, the braille of love that holds everything, fields of roses, flocks of birds, arias, waterfalls, geysers, fireworks, sirens, a soft rain, an earthquake, the beginning of the world.
Thank you so much. Our next reader is M.N. Chikwindu.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, this is called A Life Story in 10 Sentences. 1. Go down to the creek, little girl, and fetch a pail of water. Auntie and say the baby's coming soon. 2. Sisters with matching afro puffs, one with ribbons and one without, skin brown knees in the summer, and whispered secrets under winter's moon. 3. Mama says she saw you kissing Sarah Robinson out by the barn, so you better run, sis, you better run. 4. Bright lights in big cities, good dreams and bad decisions, blackness redefined, sisterhood redefined, and a wall of experience she carries like a shield, each brick earned with blood, sweat, and tears. 5. Memory stretches and snaps like a rubber band. Photographs fade, and new lines are found every day on the face in the mirror. And she realizes that memory can also haunt. 6. Maple leaves crunch on the ground underneath her feet. A balmy fall day, and the house by the creek comes into view for the first time in years, faded and dilapidated. 7. Mama's resting again, always resting and wasting away slowly every day. 8. Car tires screech and slam, and a hair ribbon flies into the air. 9. The baby squeals, wet open mouth and scrunched up face, demanding comfort, but the baby has no idea what has been lost, who has been lost. 10. Down by the creek she stands, humming to the baby, her sister's baby, her mother's grandchild. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next reader is Jean Taylor.
Can you hear me? Hello, hello. Yes. Can you hear? Yeah. Okay. I'd first of all like to acknowledge the traditional owners here on the land that I'll be reading from today, the Wurundjeri Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, where I'm reading from Bullikabek Naarm, otherwise known as Melbourne, Australia. As mentioned in dispatches from the Peace Zone, my lover holds her breath when she comes. For those few ecstatic moments, she stops breathing. I say to my friend, there's nothing to be afraid of. All that happens at the end is that you stop breathing, recalling how it was when my late partner died in the middle of one never to be forgotten, but otherwise quite ordinary Thursday afternoon in September. There's nothing to be afraid of when you die. How do you know, my friend asks. My lover holds her breath when she comes. For a few mind-blowing moments, she stops breathing. As a young mother, I would hover over the humidity crib where my baby was unconscious to make sure she was breathing. Sometimes it was hard to tell because her little body would appear to be completely lifeless. I had to bend right down to observe the slight rise and falls of her chest as it worked unceasingly to pull air into her lungs. Fearful, I held my own breath until I was reassured that she was indeed still breathing, in and out, still breathing. My lover holds her breath when she comes. For a few toe-curling moments, she stops breathing. I wake in the early hours of the morning from my bed on the floor, not far from where my friend is unconscious in her recliner. I listen to her breath as it rasps in and out, in and out. It seems almost impossible that she is still breathing when the cancer has so ravaged her body and dulled her mind, that her chest is still rising and falling to pull air into her lungs. But so it is. I hover over her unconscious form, waiting for her to stop breathing, to let go, to simply stop breathing. But she's got a hold on life that refuses to give up. Her pulse is strong under my fingers. Her chest rises and falls, rises and falls. My lover holds her breath when she comes. For a few orgasmic moments, she stops breathing. I was not with her when she died, when she stopped breathing, my daughter who died. I was in bed in the ward of the Queen Vic Hospital with all the other mothers whose babies were dying, when the nurse came and told me that my daughter had died, that my baby had stopped breathing. I almost stopped breathing myself. My lover holds her breath when she comes. For a few trembling moments, she stops breathing. I was with her when she died, when she simply stopped breathing, my friend who died. My lesbian friends and I, we're getting older. We know that death is our work now, that we have a duty to care for the dying and a responsibility to lay up the dead, that we need to simply be there when we're needed to maintain the vigil, to support each other. My lover holds her breath when she comes. For a few life-affirming moments, she stops breathing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next reader is Jennifer Abad.
Wow, okay, this has been great. All right, I'm Jennifer Abad. I'm the sister of Susan Abad. There's only 2 Abads. This is called Silent Rage. She chuckles, telling me, my husband calls himself an honorary lesbian. She thinks that's cute. Was he ever afraid to hold his wife's hand? Did he ever live a secret life? Fear losing his job, his children, his life? I hid my desire for my college roommate, buried it in butter and crackers, painted clowns with sad faces, kept it from my family, from myself, from the boy who wanted to marry. On every job, silenced, on the radio where I spoke, where I taught, fought the rumors, the myths. Was I going to molest the girls? Did this married woman expect me to laugh with her? Dig this. No fucking way. Next poem. Thank you. One applause. All right. Her colors. I keep the clothes she wore. Memories live in their colors. Her frayed pink turtleneck, her flowery fuchsia summer dress, her daily denim cap that sat over cornrows just so, the blue sweater that fall day when she spread her arms wide in a New England countryside, ivory smile blazing her open brown face, root beer barrel eyes, on my windowsill, above my sink, in a special glass, that dark faded rose she wore that last May. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I don't see this person in the chat, but just in case they're under another name, is Kimberly Esslinger here? Okay, then our next speaker is Evan Rubin.
Thank you so much. This is called Interventions. It's an abridged history of attempted interventions on me from Dagny to Corona. I survived Dagny Donner trying to cast me as a concert producer. I survived Louise Klugner trying to cast me as a diminished version of a gay person who needed her guidance socially. I survived Rhonda Platter. I'll try not to self-batter, trying to cast me as a marginalized woman who'd been left out for too long, whom she therefore was entitled to include, however she saw fit. I survived these prolonged attempted interventions on me, damaged and isolated, coping, traumatized and isolated, managing my rage, trying to mitigate the damage of these interventions. And now coronavirus is after me and everyone. I am a grain of sand warmed by the sun in an expanse of beach. I am someone with long stories in an expanse of people with stories, the masses of people now imperiled, me among them. Oh yes, I have my stories, my quest to let in light and not be overwhelmed by the damage of me. And now here comes another attempted intervention, this time by a virus, a novel virus aimed at the masses of people, aimed at the many. And I am a foot soldier to help flatten the curve, remembering sunlight on sand. Isolation is now a survival skill. I'm one among the many in a perilous world.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Germani Benson.
Hello, can you guys hear me? Okay. 20% of my body's oxygen is being used by my brain, and even 5 minutes without that and my brain cells will begin to die. So I appreciate my heart and my constant airflow. that fulfills my living need to read and write, because 5 minutes without oxygen and my creativeness will die. Would drop it all at the sound of a dime to show my intelligence and excellence. So tell me, why do I feel like social acceptance is my cyanide? But that's all I've ever known. Cyanide in my styrofoam cup. I can never make the social world love my creativeness or even appreciate my art in the way of spotlight. But I lift that cup to my lips and drink and let the rushing chemical of acceptance begin to restrict my brain's function. So I no longer live in the impressions of my art. I live in the likes of my posts and no longer exploring my soul. The only exploring I do is of the page next to the home icon. 20% of my body's oxygen is no longer being used for my brain. My heart is no longer pumping originality, just pumping a facade reality, but I'll keep drinking that cyanide cup after cup, downing every drop of acceptance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Germani. Our next speaker is Cassandra Langer.
Technology, as usual. I'm going to read something from my new collection, which is called Vestiges of Venus. I'd like to start with the poem that's called We Are More Than Enough. The strong woman, the one no one owns, she asks you, are you worthy? I ask myself, is she? We recognize each in the other. The world doesn't get who we are. We are joy without reserves. We were the caged birds. We realized freedom was something our arms had to reach out for. We found it in the sap of the tree, rooted in the cosmos, in the soil of the soul of our hope, for a new day where love could show its naked face. Bear our pain for the world, sneer as you will, we are used to it. We bear the lash, our scars are deep. We were allotted nothing, worse than slaves. We live out our truth in our bodies. We love and they hate us. We look like them, but we are not them. We tried to run away. We hid in the invisible chains, married to cover our shame. We wondered how we lost the goddess, the Amazon, lost our culture, our Sapphic heritage. No, you can't take that out of us, rape it out of us, because you cannot break us, not in our house. A house you never can enter, never be invited into, a house you must break into, and to what end? You can violate us, but you can never own us. We will be alive in ways you will never know. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is, and I apologize if I get your last name wrong, please correct me, is Erica Charis Malling.
That was really close. It's a hard one. Charis Malling is how I say it, but thank you all. I actually changed up the poem that I'm reading tonight last minute because there's a theme and I need to be in the theme. So here we go with My God-Shaped Hole. Between me and my God-shaped hole, 12 pairs of ribs, at least one of them borrowed, not really mine. This cage, the breath beneath, a benevolent gift. Bone centuries, holding the air, holding my breath, holding my tongue, which longed to taste and see that my God-shaped hole was good. The evil impulse of Eve to reach for what's already mine. My young hand deft and defiant, I searched for secrets in the forbidden part of my body. Unbecoming, my breath recklessly loud, I listened for footsteps, nearly silent in their nakedness, shame's quiet garden shuffle. The god of the garden dreams of holes he can fill, the dirt on his hands, the musty smell of need in the shape he created. This, the saints say, is love, a hole, empty and made to want one thing. My mouth craving the taste of her good earth, her holy mound with no whiff of flowers, even as she blooms before me. I become a bee, buzzed on nectar, bumbling at her pistol, uncocked but ready. This, the faithful fear, is death, a grave fault. But my God-shaped hole is made for resurrection. My rebirth, what the foremothers waited for, with hands full of sage and heads crowned with lavender. They dreamed of a caving place where the burial cloth lies empty, the body free and unashamed. We have put our hands in each other's wounds and found the secret salve hidden in us. Here the God we could only see in a mirror, opening at the end of our cage. This, the saints say, is sin. Two women, no match, but we rub until we make fire. Watch how we burn. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Definitely have a theme tonight. I love it. So a couple people, I'm not sure if they're here in case they're in other names, is Sapient Soul here? Okay, and then Run Tuatha. All right, then our next speaker is Flint.
Hey all, lovely to be here. I'm gonna read the first two short sections of a longer poem cycle about the Pulse nightclub massacre and caring for my homophobic stepfather as he approached death. And I will put the link to the rest of the piece in the chat. Last call 1. I was in a bathroom stall in another bar, all fingers and tongues and parted lips, when the first bullet flew from the mouth of the gun, just another high, hot note in the mix the DJ was spinning. I wasn't there for one more drink, one more dance, one last chance to grind all hips and ass and heat, and everybody put your hands in the air and say, hey! I wasn't one more body in the sweat and throb and now or neverness of last call at 2 a.m., when shots still meant 2 ounces of something sweet and sticky in a little plastic cup. Your bodies broke open in blood and screams, and we came and went without exchanging numbers or names. Numbers: 6, 12, 16, 202 to 514, 603 911 calls, 204 rounds of ammo, 49 slaughtered on the dance floor in bathroom stalls, 613 16, 113, one more death, one less vote for Trump, 23 hours, 11 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Jen O'Connor.
Can you hear me okay? Oh, all right, thank you. Sorry. Okay, it's coming. Okay. This is called Oblivion in a Secondhand Store. In a cluttered, dusty shop, I discover photographs from long ago. Some in curiously wrought frames, many loose torn, stained, all with people, all ages, all hues, staring out at me solemnly, or flashing smiles at me saying, look here, see my hopes, my dreams. They sat so still for the photographer, full of faith in friends and family who would eventually betray them. So here I hold an abandoned photo of a forgotten life. My God, 10 cents. Life is cheap when no one knows you anymore. Should I buy them all? Rescue them? Yes. Enshrine them on the mantelpiece. Light candles to them from time to time. When visitors ask me, who is that one? I shall say, someone I saved. Thanks. Next piece is called Heat Wave Regrets. We fanned our way through the summer, towers sweeping sultry air, pushing us hotly from room to room, tumblers of water with ice that melts before we can guzzle it dry. Wanting to shower, but no, please, not twice in one day. We should have been cat-like, licking our own sweat, licking each other's. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Fern O'Shea.
Hi. I'm just pulling it up, sorry. I have like 2 or 3 short ones, depending on how long it takes. I was good. Red beret, toy train, sidewalk chalk. Or I bite the dentist. Or I smash my face into the trunk of the car. Green station wagon. Blue snow sled with the yellow rope. Or I salt spilled over slugs in the backyard. Bees crush under my bare foot. Yellow brick bike shop. Baskin Robbins Rocky Road. Bottle rocket. I was good. Black beret, cigarette boxes, clog drain. Or I wear a blank face, skin my knees skating on pavement. Green felt hat, blue latch box filled with ink and needles. Or I will always talk too much but never say what I really mean. Grease and scab and skin and sheets. In a home where you hear the rain all over, all over. Hear the rain all over. In a room lit only by the night through a skylight. I have fallen asleep in this bed so many times with the window cracked and the smell of humid springtime. So many times in the humid springtime. Do I have time for one more?
I'm going to stop you there because that was 2 minutes, but those are both great. Okay, our last speaker for the open mic tonight is Susa Silver Marie.
What delightful company to be in. Also new work in concert. We start to understand that co-creating is the only kind. The clenched perception that we each create separate lives on our own at last begins to loosen. In concert with the winds that sing, in concert with the drumming rain, in concert with the crackling sunlight, in concert with the earth that hums. We've explored our planet home with blundering gusto, clumsy bungling and ignorant plundering ways. And now we stop and grow and notice what must be repaired in concert with the sky that lives within our lungs, in concert with the briny water in each cell, in concert with the fire in our blood, in concert with the sediment we're made of. We never could pull ourselves up, be strong alone. We never could go needless and solo and shielded. Singular living really never was. And now the false idea fades away. In concert with the winds that bring us breath, in concert with the roaring seas we came from, in concert with the transformations made by fire, in concert with the earth that feeds and loves us. We dream our lives and live our dreams, lifting into day and night, co-arising from the earth. We see we are one grand and whirling world, each a cherished part of Gaia, sharing fire and water, earth and air.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much to all of our open mic speakers. And I'm going to turn it back over to Julie.
Thank you all so much. I am just queuing up our final song, which is the L Word performed by your girlfriend. I'll make a couple quick announcements. Sign up for our email newsletter. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram so you don't miss a single fun thing we have planned for 2021. You should now be able to click on the gallery view, start your video, and everyone can scroll through and see the gorgeous faces of women gathered here this evening. I'll put on the final song, L Word, written by Carol Kramer and performed by your girlfriend. We thank them for permission to use the music, and when it's over, so is our Zoom, and I will be logging out and it will automatically log everyone else out. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you to all of our readers, and thank you to Casey for organizing us.
It's the only chance you got to reclaim our name and not live in shame to try to improve our lot. Come on and say the L word. It's the only chance you got to stop the lying and denying. Come on and give it a shot. And everybody say lesbian.
Lesbian.
Word. Something take a turn. Did you look around and see if the sound is not enough to make your ear turn? Did you say it in a whisper, or did you just say gay? Did your face turn red? Did you decide to stay? To save it for another day? Did you yourself say
Lesbian.
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 Lesbian. There's Mecca. Hi, Mecca.
I'll just keep going. Lesbian. Lesbian. You can't see it. You can't see it. Fail the night. You all deny. Lesbian. Lesbian. That's my fault. Now, turn it off. She might not be able to see it. Oh, there we go.
Thank you all. Have a great evening. We'll see you in January.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you, everyone.